Hi, everybody. Good evening. So tonight, I wanted to touch on a topic that I get asked a lot of questions about, and that's around executive functioning, which is not how the CEO of a company is doing, but rather how the CEO of your brain is working. Think of executive functioning as a set of mental skills that work together to help you achieve goals. It allows us to engage in planning, find resources, think of goals, and really allow us to, to be a little bit more organized. Now, these skills sit in the front of our brain, in the frontal lobe, which fortunately or unfortunately, depending upon your point of view, is one of the last areas to develop. So we'll find that, these strategies of planning and organizing, managing time, strategizing, paying attention, remembering details, you'll notice that it's something that is harder for younger children to do than for adolescents, and harder for adolescents to do than for adults. And we know that, having difficulties with executive functioning can cause a host of different issues, whether it's from initiating and completing tasks in a timely manner, generating ideas independently, retaining the information that's required to complete a task. Whoops, I forgot that you told me that a minute ago. Difficulty in communicating details in an organized, sequential manner, either orally or in writing, or struggling with planning that's needed to complete a project. Or even just difficulty keeping their room or their locker or their binder organized. Beyond that, there's some other ways that could cause issues with sitting still, starting projects. You may be having some difficulty with your executive functioning skills if you're finding that you're procrastinating on something or not getting to finish a project. Or just, it impacts your ability to plan a task, follow basic routines for your morning, for your evening, or even controlling your behavior when you're frustrated, stressed, or disappointed. So there are a number of major areas that go into what we call overall executive functioning. There's inhibition, planning and organization, monitoring, emotional control, cognitive flexibility, shifting, working memory, and initiation. I'm going to run through short definitions of each of them for you as we talk about this, and give you some strategies. Inhibition is really, pardon me, your ability to stop yourself from doing something, and I think that it's one of the challenging areas that we often find that children have in stopping themselves from doing something. There are a few other areas. Planning and organization is another one, and it really is exactly what it sounds like. If I do this and then that, I can get this done. Monitoring, keep up the good work. It looks like you're sticking with the plan. Emotional control, it's that idea of I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. It doesn't matter that this seems a little bad. I'm not going to allow it to tackle me and knock me over. Cognitive flexibility is this idea of, okay, it's not a problem that this has changed, that I'm willing to go with the flow. Shifting is that famous concept of multitasking, which we could talk about another time, doesn't quite exactly exist. But I'm paying attention to this now, and now I'm going to pay attention to that. Working memory, just think about it the last time you met somebody at a party. Did you remember their name after they introduced themselves? That's your working memory in action. And initiation is, let's get going, folks. Literally ready, set, go. So let me throw out some strategies for dealing with each of these areas that you might be able to help at home with building up some of these skills in children who are developing them, or helping a child who is struggling with one of those. So start with inhibition. Use visual cues, a stop sign, a hand signal, even a traffic light. A fidget toy may be helpful for those that are struggling with inhibition. If you've got a kid that doesn't quite understand when they shouldn't or should not be interrupting, having them write down comments or questions when they interrupt rather than just allowing them to barge into the conversation. For a younger child, playing Simon Says is a great way to work on inhibition. Simon didn't say. All right, for shifting, it's really helpful if you're going to provide warnings when a transition is going to occur. So, in 5 minutes, I need you to start clearing off the kitchen table and then get started on your homework. Visual timers help. A visual sketch will also can help if you lay out what the activities are. And that visual schedule can have pictures in it or it can just be written. Initiation. Provide some adult assistance with the first item to help the child understand the task demands. Graphic organizers are really helpful for writing tasks, if that's something that's going on. Or, even, this is a case where you might need to provide some incentives to get your kid to engage in something that they don't prefer to do, whether it's chores or homework, and say, okay, well, once you get X, Y, and Z done, then you can have access to something that's preferred, whether that's a screen time or an activity or a treat. You be the judge of what's appropriate and fits within your parenting. Working memory. I know that this is something that's a challenge for me all the time. I'm that person that forgets that name in that introduction at the cocktail party, and I have to use strategies to make sure that I retain it. So for me, that's repeating information orally that I've heard. So using their name again really quickly in the conversation. You can use mnemonics to help with working memory. If you're struggling with multi-step directions, break the language down into simpler steps and use easier language. And there are games that you can play to help teach, more visual memory as well. Circle all the instances that something occurs, in a magazine in 1 minute, or even a game like Uno. Or Go Fish will work with working memory, or just simply that game memory. That I'm sure all of us have some version of that sitting around at home. As well, so planning and organization is another area of executive functioning that I mentioned before. This is a place where you may want to use checklists, calendars, color coding books and folders by subject area. Make all the math stuff red, all of the language arts stuff yellow. Taking time to sit with your child and break down longer term assignments into smaller components. Even just doing things as simple as establishing a clear routine. Okay, you're gonna come home. The first thing that you do is get your bag unpacked, get your lunch out of your bag, lunch bag emptied, and then get lunch made. And that's the routine when you walk in. Will help with the planning component in the organization during that time. Self-monitoring. You may want to create a way for your child to flag when they're having a problem. Using a checklist again to help them with each steps, allowing them to mark it off. Okay, I'm here, now I'm here, now I'm here. Giving them separate homework folders, timing them when you give complete tasks, and talking to them about estimating how long they think a task is going to take is also really helpful here. Cognitive flexibility. Another one is to show them some of those classic optical illusions and talk to them about them. What do you see first? And then have them take a look at what they might see. A great website to take a look at for some of these is iTricks.com. I'll post that in the comments section when this is over. It's also really important to do some modeling and encouraging the behaviors of the kid that you want your child to learn when you're doing this. So if you have you're dealing with a difficult situation. I wanted us to eat outside on the porch, but now it's raining and I can't. Think out loud with your child around that. Use some self-talk statements. I'm making progress on, or I'm in control of this. Showing your kids how to use these skills is incredibly important. Emotional control. We all have our moments as parents where that's something that we're going to lose it. And if you stay tuned to the Innovative Dad blog, you'll see a post on that sometime in the near future. I really encourage you to, if your child is struggling with this, to create a calming box. That's something you can travel with if you need to. It's scents, objects, pictures, stuffed animals, or fidgets that will help your child calm down when they're feeling stressed. Great strategy is take 5. Breathe in through your nose, and then hold your breath and count to 5, and then exhale on 5 as well. You may want to put out some opportunities for, hang on to your refrigerator, some cards for positive self-talk. That are phrases that you want your child to be using to remind them that they are good at these things and that they have strengths. And then here's something that's really just it's simple, and it may seem overly simplified, but emotional control is easier for kids when they've had enough sleep, and coupled with that, when they've had enough to eat. That new word of hangry is really a failure of your emotional control when you're getting into that phase. And as if you think back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you meet your basic needs, it's going to be easier for you to have control over some of these more complex and more sophisticated aspects of your brain. So just a handful of suggestions for each area of executive functioning. To help you start to build these out, I will post some of these in the comments, as well as a link to an earlier post on my blog about executive functioning. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week. Take care and good night.